Okay, I wanted to talk a little bit about this shield. Now, the buttons here, you got your select, your left, your up, your down, your right, and your reset. Now, you'll notice that there's 4 legs on each one of these buttons. So when you flip it over, you have 4 posts on the back side. 1, 2, 3, 4 for the one button. 1, 2, 3, 4 for another. 1, 2, 3, 4 for the down. 1, 2, 3, 4 for the up. And then 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. So when you flip this thing on the right side, the top side, the first one is the select button. And then the left, up, down, right, and reset. So when you flip it upside down, what you have is you have the select button on this side, the left, up, down, right, and reset. That's the way it is when it's upside down. Just like that. So when I wired mine, I used color code wire because I needed to attach it to the right button. And I wanted to make sure that, I used the right push button. And the little button on the shield needed to match the button on the control panel or the box. So it really doesn't matter which wire you use. I mean, you could use the same, but you got to identify it. So I used the blue one for the right, an orange one for the down, a yellow one for the up, purple one for the left, a green one for the select, and a black one for the reset. Now this is just this 22 gauge wire. I think that's all you need. I'm not sure, but that's what I used. And I mean, the little pins aren't very big, so they can't take much current. But there's an important thing about these buttons, is that if you put a ohm meter on them, they won't really register a current, because waiting for this thing to focus. I don't know why it's not focusing. But anyway, from what I understand, these buttons are not like a regular button. I mean, the buttons are like a button, but when they're in this circuit, they're not isolated from each other. They're all connected. Now these buttons, when you push the button, it sends a signal, and it's like a not like a beeper, but like you use on your car. It sends a wireless signal, but it's not wireless. It's wired in, but it sends a signal, and each one of these buttons sends a different signal. So you can't. They're wired in a way on the board that they're not individual from each other. They're all connected, but because each one sends a different signal, the controller or the board itself knows which button is being pushed, because the different signal from each button is telling it which button is being pushed. Anyway, that's what I read somewhere about these. And that doesn't really matter. The thing that matters is that, from what I've seen, and is that when you wire these buttons, you're doing it in a diagonal pattern. So this first button, this thing will focus. Okay, this first button, you're going from this corner to this corner diagonally. Then on the second button, you're going from this corner to this corner. You're going to the same corner on each button. This 4 pattern here. Okay, there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're going from this button to this, well, I'm calling it button, it's a leg. From this leg to this leg, and that's obviously the up button, and this is the down button. So you're going from this leg to this leg. And the same one over here, you're going from this leg to this leg, and this is the reset. You're going from this leg to this leg. Now that's what it shows in the My Ford Boy, except the first one, he didn't use the reset button, which was this one. These 4 posts, he didn't use those, but I did, because I added a reset button to mine. And in his if you remember, in his the second one, he added a reset button. Reset. Right here. But in his first one, he didn't. That's why he went with a bigger box. But I used the original box. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that about the buttons, the push buttons. So this is the box I wired up. And see if I can turn this light on. Okay, see the black mount with this switch mounted in that circular piece on the bottom. And then the other one. Now these are the connectors I added to the back. Remember I talked about that. You can see the serrations in the back of that one. And I hooked up this other wire to this one. So that cutout that was in the back of the box is what this black square thing fits into. So here's the buttons. Okay, this is the, now if you look over here, the select button is the green button. which is this one on the outside. See the green one? And the wires are diagonal. And I don't think I can move those. But anyway, the next ones are the purple ones. I got this cord, this big cord, and it's not letting me move this thing like I want it to. So anyway, the green one is right here, here and here. Then underneath there is the purple, and the purple is the left. Then the next one is the orange, and that's the down. And then the one above that is the yellow. See, the one yellow is here, one yellow is there. It's in a diagonal pattern. And the yellow is the up. Then the blue is the next one. And then the select button, or I mean the reset button is the black one. And that goes through that extra hole I had to make and into this switch. So these wires run into the switches. So this switch over here is the right. Which is the blue. And then the middle switch and the left switch, the up switch and the down. Well, I don't mean switch, I mean push button. But anyway, it's a switch. Push button is a switch. But the other thing, remember when I was telling you about these pieces I made to mount the board, the motor controller board, the cutout, that's the cutout. This is the cutout on one of them because it interferes with the shield. Now I don't know if I can. You see how much I had to cut out? And it's just barely clearing it, but it works. You have to go back to the other video, and I had a measurement on that. And this is the other one, the one in the back. Now this, you notice that this box that goes around the outside of this mount it's not cooperating very well with me. Let me put a little something under here. Alright, that's a little better. Okay, this piece here with the cutout, then all that cutout is for the heat sink. Now that piece is the same as this piece. Remember, they were both identical. The cutouts were different, but the parts are both identical. There's cutouts on the back of this for the solder joints that are on this guy. You see how they stick up there? And this is the heat sink, which is attached. Now those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 solder pieces fit into this is clearance for those 6 solder joints, and then the underside of this sits on this piece, and then these 2 screws hold it in place. Now there's a gap. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a gap between the inside of this and the top of this. There's a gap in there. You see, you can just barely see it. So you can see the screw, which is telling you there's a gap in there. So this black piece, which fits over that mount, is for housing the cables that are going to come in from the back. Now they just attach to that mount with 2 screws, one on each side in the bottom, and then the one on top on each side where the board mounts. Now that gap is the thickness of this green plate, which is probably phenolic of some sort, non-conductive. But I'll show you that later. I wanted to show you this. I have to install that and then attach the wires to that. But anyway, that's the switch mount, and that's how the wiring's going to go. It just lays down there flat, and the Arduino fits on these pins. So there's a gap on this side. And these first 2 wires that I soldered, the green ones and the purple ones, you notice that on these wires I have it going in the up direction because you can't go through this mount. But these first 2, the green ones, I had them wired in the up direction, then I had to put a bend on them, and I said, well, you know, I can just run those straight down. I didn't know that until after I put it together. So I desoldered them and just ran them straight down. So that'll let the rest of these wires fit down flat, which is really what you want. You need to get this down as flat as you can. And then I put these, I measured these wires to go from here to the switches, and I cut what I needed. Then I had some extra because I think I got like 12 inches of each one of these different colors. So on these ones up here, the ones that go into the motor controller, I just used what I had left over, and I just wrote down which one went in which hole. So if you remember that the 3rd hole, 4th hole, and 5th hole are being used, and I wrote that down over here. So this third hole is the blue, the orange, and the brown. It doesn't matter which wire you use so long as you remember which one goes where and you plug it into the right spot when you put it on the board. Now these other wires I got, this cable, this one cable is going to go to a switch. See what it is that when I use this box, I don't want to have to sit here and push a button every time I index it. So I'm using like a little lever switch, like a remote switch. So I wired this cable into the left and the right push button. Of course, this one on the far side is the left one. And this one is the right one. So this wire I'm using is a four wire 20 gauge, and it's inside this cable. I don't know if you can see it. It was just a 4 wire. I don't think it's going to focus on it. But anyway, it's just 4 wires inside this cable. So, and like I said before, it really didn't matter which wire I used for which side, so long as I wrote it down. So I wrote down the red and the white is the right button, and the black and the green is the left button. So here's that extra the green and the black. See the green and the black. Then on the other side is the red and the white. Now from before, the 2 blue is the right button that goes up to the shield. So on these 2 buttons, the left and the right button, I have 4 wires attached. 2 going to the shield and two each on this going to the cable, and then this one I have 2 going to the cable, and then the 2 purple ones going to the shield. The 2 purple ones here, they loop around and they go up here to the shield. So I want to add those wires in now, because when I put the motor controller on it, I won't be able to get to them. Well, I could, I just take off the 4 screws, but the point is that, I don't want to have to do the work twice. So I got that in there, and this other hole for another cable is going to be for the power cable. Now the power cable that's going to power from my 12-volt supply is going to be put on after the motor controller is installed, because that's what plugs into the motor controller. So everything that's on the shield is in place and ready, and anything else is installed after the motor controller is installed. So that's where we are now, and we'll get to the other half of the box later, but we'll get finished up on this half, and talk to you later.